Now, let's go to line one and to Mick Barry, who wants to talk about international yachting. Good morning, Mick.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. I wouldn't have put you down for the international yachting type.
I wouldn't think so, really, Mick. No.
I'm only joking, but you believe that Ireland should not agree to host the 2024 America's Cup yacht race because we're going to know on the 17th of September whether we are successful in that bid. We are up against Valencia, which has already hosted the America's Cup and has an amazing array of facilities there, as well as probably, I dare say, a lot more sunshine than we in Cork. Why are you against it?
Well, you're not quite right there, Mick, so I'll just make it clear from the start.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I'm against it, and I'm not saying that we should say no to this, okay?
Okay.
But what I am saying is two things. First of all, before we say yes or no, we need to know what are the costs for the taxpayer and what are the benefits from Ireland hosting this international yacht race, okay? Mm-hmm. For example, how much would need to be spent on infrastructure? Simon Coveney has said that it would cost a lot of money, but we haven't been told exactly how much, how many millions, how many tens of millions would it cost the taxpayer to host this event. And then there needs to be an analysis of what are the benefits from it. For example, the last city to host it, Auckland in New Zealand, the official cost report after it said that for every dollar spent by Auckland, they got 72 cents back. So it was a loss maker for them. Supporters of bringing the race to Cork and to Ireland say that, yes, that was during COVID and the numbers were down during COVID.
Yes, nobody could avail of tourism in New Zealand.
Yeah, and that the last time it was held in Europe, it was a big money maker. But we can't do this on the basis of, this is what I think or this is what might be the case. There needs to be a proper analysis. Now, the government did commission an analysis. The analysis was commissioned from, I think, Ernst & Young. But the decision is being made on this on September the 17th. So that's what? A week away?
That's about a week away, yeah.
Yeah, and this cost-benefit analysis hasn't been published. So the first thing I'm saying is it needs to be published. There needs to be a figure given on how much taxpayers' money is to be put into this. And there needs to be a debate as to whether we go ahead and do it or not. I think that's a fair point. I know you're a supporter of bringing the race here.
I just love being on the water in general, and we live, I know it's an old cliche, the second biggest natural harbour in the world, blah, blah, blah. I think some of the most happiest times that I've spent anyway is on the water. I'm drawn to it, and I'd love to see the spectacle here because there's a huge build-up. The America's Cup is the absolute pinnacle of yachting. If you want to put it into context, right? The first America's Cup was contested in 1851, so that makes it the oldest trophy in international sport. That can't harm us. This trophy predates the modern Olympic Games by 45 or 50 years. So this is going to be the eyes of the world on Cork if we do get it. I've also said I don't think it can be staged without the grace of maybe Doyle Shipping and the old Verone Cork Dockyard as a staging post, perhaps Cork Harbour Marina, which has the deep water facilities there. And now, unless the government coffers dredge the river up to the Royal Cork and Crosshaven, but maybe that's going to be the entertainment section. Maybe the ferries will run all over Cork Harbour. I don't see the harm it's going to do here. I do understand you're looking at the national picture, the public purse, as you say, which will have to bring this event internationally to a local area. There may be some questions to be answered there. Is that what's worrying you?
Well, it's an interesting point that you make about being the oldest international sporting event. I've heard it said, now I'm a bit dubious about the claim, but I've heard it said that it's the third largest sporting event in the world behind the Olympic Games and the World Cup, okay?
That's what I've heard as well.
I can think of others that I think would be ahead of it, but leave that to one side. It's a big international sporting event. Now, if Ireland was going to host a World Cup or an Olympics, I think the basic instinct of ordinary people would be to say that's great. But they also would say, we want to hear a bit of discussion on this about what is it going to cost the taxpayer, what are we going to give, and what are we going to get?
Right? We're going to give 9 million first off, anyway, if we get it on the 17th. 9 million. is the first payment.
I understand. The Irish Examiner ran a report the other day, and basically the gist of that is that the Irish state would give €9 million of taxpayers' money to what I understand is a private company for awarding the race to Ireland and giving the green light for Cork to be the host city for it. But that's information that should have been out there months ago and weeks ago. Why is it up to the Irish Examiner just less than 10 days before the decision is made to be putting information like that out there? There's been radio silence from the government on this, other than Simon Coveney saying it would cost a lot of money.
To be fair, Simon Coveney has been more than a little distracted by the melodramatic affairs that have been going on, and for which he appeared before the Oireachtas Committee last Tuesday. He's now, of course, in New York on official Department of Foreign Affairs business, so probably won't hear from Simon until we get or lose this in 8 days' time.
So what you're saying, Mick, is that an international sporting event will come to this country and come to Cork, that it will involve the spending of taxpayers' money, which is going to run into the millions and possibly the tens of millions, and there's no information about that given out to the public before the government says yes or no. That's completely wrong. Completely wrong.
When we accepted the joint hosting of the Euros, and then that didn't happen because of COVID, were all of these details gone into? Or is it just obvious that money would be made because the stadiums would be full?
There's more information given out in the example you quoted there than has been in relation to this particular one. And it's not automatically the case that this is a money spinner. I mean, I gave the example there. I know that it was in the COVID times, right? That's the case. Although the COVID times haven't left us yet either. But the last time around, the city that hosted this, for every $4 that they spent, they got less than $3 back. They lost significant sums of money. So I'm not saying no, I'm against this coming here. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that there needs to be information, detailed costings, how much taxpayers' money is spent up front, and a proper debate before the government says yay to this. I think that's a fair and a reasonable point of view. And I also, in the little statement that I sent you there, and I'd like to maybe make a couple of brief points on this.
Sure.
I raised some points about the question of access to the sport and to sailing in general, because there are plenty of examples in recent times of big international sporting events coming to a country or to a city, and it's like the wave coming in and the wave coming out. It's great when it happens, but then afterwards there's nothing left behind. There's no legacy. And if this is going to happen here, there has to be a legacy in terms of improved facilities for all people. I mean, this is described as an elite sport, but yachting also is an elitist sport.
How is yachting an elitist sport? Did you ever go out on a Sunday and see the hundreds of young children in Optimists and Toppers and Fivas that are being coached on the Curlane Bank behind Spike Island by the Royal Cork? Absolutely unbelievable. And you can get into that sport much cheaper than you get into golf or any of the other sports that young people get. Much cheaper than horse riding, for example. And very good physically, mentally. You're in the open air. Of course, every sport has an elitist element. Rugby have their World Cup, soccer have their World Cup, golf have the Riders' Cup and the Solheim Cup.
I would say that for a young person from Farranree or a young person from Mayfield, it's far easier to get into hurling or to get into soccer than it is to get into sailing, and that needs to change. This sport needs to be opened up so as it can become the property of anyone who wants to be involved, any young person who wants to be involved, and that has to be part of a legacy if this event is going to come to this country and to this city. I think that's a fair and a reasonable point to make as well.
Yes,
I agree with you.
In Monkstown, where I live, there are sailing courses for all who wish to take part. The only caveat for insurance reasons is you must be a family member. You can do that for as little as €280 for the year. And dozens and dozens of children from out of town, from out of, away from the water, from the north side, come down, join, have a social element, and it's quite open to them. I don't see where you're seeing the elitist thing here.
Well, maybe see what the listeners think in relation to that. I think that there is an elitist culture around yachting. I think a lot of listeners would agree with that, and I think this is a sport that needs to be opened up to all ordinary people and all young people who want to participate, and there needs to be a discussion about how that can best be done, and then measures put in place as part of this whole discussion.
Yeah, and I mean, when Wimbledon is on, every child is out with a tennis racket. Don't you think the America's Cup would open up the sailing as a sport and as a recreation, as a pastime? Not everybody races the boats. Not everybody competes for silverware. There is the elitist element of of yachting and people who have a lot of money to throw at it. Look at the spectacle of the Fastnet race, the Rolex Fastnet race. Millions and millions put into that. And what a great spectacle, and what an endurance test for people. There's all elements to the sport. It's not just elitist.
I think your point is right there, that there would be an increased level of interest in it. But you need to make sure that the increased level of interest is then matched by making it easy and to encourage people to get involved in the sport of sailing. And there would need to be a debate and a discussion. Okay,
Anna's on line 2 and she's wondering if you'd prefer if Dublin got it. Good morning, Anne.
Good morning, Mick. I'm in Monkstown, Mick, and the number of children, as you know, that go out sailing here in Monkstown is wonderful, and it's great for them. They have the classes every year, and the place is jointed, and they come from everywhere.
That's what I've been saying. And that's small compared to what's on the water every weekend and during the summer courses from the Royal Cork.
Yes. So would Mick Barry prefer if it was in Dublin, in Dunleary?
The answer to that question is no. The answer to that question is no. I would not prefer that. I'm quite happy to see this event. Cork? Yeah, I'm trying to answer your question there.
Okay.
Okay, the answer is no, I would not prefer to see it go to Dublin. I would not prefer to see it go to Dunleary. I'd be delighted to see the event come to Cork, but I want to make sure that there's a good deal for the taxpayer, and that the increased level of interest among young people means that there's even more young people than the number of young people that you're talking about availing of the facilities.
We here in Monkstown, we have a slipway for disabled sailing. All children are allowed to come into it, no matter where they are or who they are.
That's good.
Yeah, well, so then, and it's probably the same in Cove and Crosshaven.
All of the harbour towns. Eddie English sails with Sail Cork out of East Ferry. There's sailing courses out of the slipway, I believe, in Ahada, Lower Estella, Lower Ahada there. Of course, Crosshaven is a huge one by virtue of the size of the club. Cove have their sailing club, Cove Sailing Club, in White Point, and then there's Monkstown Bay Sailing Club, Passage Rowing Club. It's not just sailing; it's water sports in general.
Water sports, yes, and
there's rowing on the river. I don't think it could be more open to all elements of society. If people in Mayfield and Knocknaheeny, as you say, Mick, are feeling disadvantaged because geographically they're not near the water. We have, I assume, good public transport services, good road services. They can drive down there. I mean, you can't blame sailing because people live on the north side. It's open to everybody. Honestly, it is.
Of course. I mean, you know, Mick, the weekends here, the traffic, the cars parked, that's all for the sailing.
Yes, I want to get a quick comment in from Ger before we go. Anne, thanks a million. Thank you very much. Ger, are you there?
Bye-bye.
Hello, Ger? No, not getting Ger. Okay, Mick, we'll wrap it there. Let's see if we can get Ger on line 3. Nope. You still there, Mick?
I am, but I have to go fairly soon, Mick.
No bother. I've got news on the way. I'm going to need to go as well. Ger, final comment there from you?
Yeah, just kind of a bit elitist to be talking about yachting. Like, that's kind of a refined idea, and the general public haven't a clue about it, like.
Okay, so you think it is an elitist sport?
I think it's very elitist. It's more expensive to run a boat than it's to run a race car.
It depends on the size of the boat. Like, you can have a rowing boat.
Yeah, you're literally only to keep a yacht on the water. It costs a fair amount of money every year, like.
Okay.
You want to be earning millions upwards, have something like that on a constant basis. And when you get into competition, you're talking even more money. But it's not relevant to fucking the general public. I was wondering what happened to the radio station when you're talking about yachting and stuff like football and soccer and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
More akin to the general public, like.
All right, fair enough. Each to their own. We'll finish it up there anyway.
Okay.
Thanks, Ger.
Okay.
Thanks a million. Mick, final words from you?
Yeah, just to sum it up again, I mean, we kicked off by saying that, you know, you asked me why was I again this, and I'm not saying that I'm again it. I'm saying that the country shouldn't say yes or no until such time as the people have been given solid facts and information about how much money, taxpayers' money, is going to be involved in this and what are the costs and what are the benefits. And if the country decides to go for it, well then there has to be a legacy. It can't just be the wave coming in and the wave coming out and then the circus leaves town. It has to be that there are real improvements, and the key improvement that I'm focused on is getting more people involved, and there not being barriers in the way of ordinary people and young people getting involved. It has to be fully opened up.
I contend those barriers don't exist, Mick, but let's agree to differ on that. Thanks a million.
We'll see what the listeners think. Okay.
All right.
Neil Prendeville, the voice of Cork. Weekdays 9 to 12. Cork's Red FM. Red FM.